A pleasure to meet all at last, and here we go with some more super foam flying. And now it's time where we get on to some serious business right here, because let me just say that first of all, with all that good stuff that's taken place, some good blasters have come by, some bad blasters have come by, and I tell you, the Uwenta review is still fresh. Man, that was unbelievably terrible. But now let's get on into some even more dangerous territory, if you will, by talking about, well, one of these babes right here. A hopper-fed blaster from a lineup that is meant to be a bit of a successor to rivals. Well, Project Hyper. Hyper is something that's been taken, dude. The Hyper Sight lineup from the early 2000s. That was 20 years ago. This is not Hyper, you guys. Oh my gosh. Hate these trademarks and issues that they have here with that. Oh my gosh, like, I ought to fix that. I ought to do way more than just fix it, as a matter of fact, but anyways, here we go with basically one of the first blasters that was released in the lineup at the time, the Rush, or Rush 40 as it's typically known as, because, well, take a look inside. Well, this is basically what it is. A hopper that could fit up to 40 of these. Basically the next thing to the rival HIR round, or high impact round. Those, of course, were made out of a certain squishy foam material that would be very suitable for certain capacities and would also be allowed to accommodate a few extra if you had to squeeze a bunch in there. But here, it's a little different. These are about a fraction of the size of an HIR round and are made of a bit of a rubbery sort of thing. It's probably like silicone or PVC of some sort. A blend that can make it a lot more durable, yet it can hit way harder. Because as it turns out, these kinds of blasters are notoriously dangerous. Primarily for the fact that, well, these can in fact shoot well over 110 FPS. That's dangerous by any means. Of course, it's already been well known that the Rivals lineup has actually gone as far as to getting banned from Australia, for example, because of toy safety requirements, and the fact that when evaluating these blasters, Australian producers and distributors actually found these to be pretty high in FPS ranges, almost comparable to that of an airsoft gun. Almost comparable to that. These right here, though, are a bit more so on that range in comparison, though. So, you know what? It's safe to say that Nerf had actually become so self-aware that, well, guess what? They made their own safety eye gear, pretty much. And as a matter of fact, pretty much all blasters from this lineup itself actually come with a pair of these types of glasses. But I want to talk about those real quickly, though. These glasses are pretty much just no different than, let's say, your typical, well, science class sort of eye gear, where it's basically a flexible plastic which will allow it to accommodate different sizes and head shapes. And, well, apparently this is the same mold Z87 style lenses, which of course means that they are in fact safe for science experiments. Yeah. These are basically the same thing. So, of course, I'm not going to fire at these just to test out how good they are, but the thing is, yeah, trying to fire at a pillow over there, because if these things bounce off the walls, they could get anywhere, and they would not be pretty right here. But as you can basically see right here, this is basically where the rounds all load into the chamber itself. And, well, to tell you the truth, whoa, wow, that just landed in something. Wow. That would have been cool for like a trick shot video, Dude Perfect style. Oh, another bouncer. Hey, that one landed right here. What do you know? So now, this is basically how you reload it. Just insert the rounds into the hopper itself. Yeah, sometimes there could be jams they get around, but, well, just like that. The Rush 40 is ready to go, pretty much, because it is still preloaded, pretty much. And the truth is, well, I actually do hope to pick up some of the other blasters in the line, including the Siege and the Mach, both of which are also some, well, they've been talked about a lot at least, but to tell you the truth, the Rush 40 already does show that I am in fact in pretty dangerous territory. And I guess what perpetuates this even more is that, well, being the successor of the Rival lineup itself, is the fact that it includes the same sort of tactical rail on top. Also, some of the same old ergonomics that you can find in most Rival blasters are here as well. And one last thing here is safety switch. Pretty much all Rivals blasters come standard with these nowadays as a way because, like I said, they've gotten banned from Australia because of, well, failure to meet certain toy safety requirements. But here in America, we get nothing banned, apparently. Not even for the right reasons. I seriously wish that there was some change right here, or I'm going to get so angry right now, but, well, anyways. To talk about the Rush 40, to summarize pretty much, the fact that something like this now does exist, a lineup like this is now a thing, we're probably going to be looking at even bigger complications that'll probably be set up on each other when it comes to toy safety requirements, especially for international releases. I mean, there's no way you could find this in many other places as well. These kinds of blasters prove to be even more dangerous and more challenging than that of the Rival lineup itself. Also, the fact that, well, Nerf was actually more self-aware than ever these days. They're a bit more sensitive about safety and possible health hazards and injuries from these blasters. The fact that they're now including actual eye gear with some of them, especially with most of today's blasters. Considering how these are very dangerous in most ways, I am not surprised that a lot of people out there would rather stay away from them. But you know me, I'm a guy who's a seeker. I'm a guy who actually likes to look at these kinds of things and wonder, what could I possibly do to talk about these? Or what could I possibly do with these in general? But, well, in that sense, I'd say that, well, something like this is so to be desired. But, time to turn off the safety switch because now's the time I give this thing a proper score. For being an entry-level blaster into this lineup itself, the Project Hyper Keen series, as I've been referring to it as for a while, I'd say something like this actually does give a pretty valid explanation that we will be seeing bigger, more powerful blasters out there that'll prove to be even lethal at times. But I suppose that with the time we have now, and with all the things that are coming around at this point, I can't necessarily say that I would imagine something that bad happening right now. But anyways, for the Rush 40, a score that I might as well give to this one here, I might as well be a little bit high because the time that I picked this up and the time that I had this episode recorded was the time that, well, this is the only blaster from this lineup that I got, but don't worry. I will also be talking about the Siege 50 and the Mach 100 at some point in time. But until then, 7.6 out of 10. Yeah. So it's almost average by any means in terms of functionality and in terms of, well, gimmicks and other things out there. It's got a bunch of tactical rails on this thing, even below the handguard. I always find that to be a little wonky in a way. Somewhat archaic as well, but it is what it is pretty much. And for a blaster like this that is pretty much entry level into the world of Hyper, or just calling it Keen. I'm not even doing that anymore. I'm not getting into that ever again. So, as this is an entry blaster into that lineup itself, it has a good hopper, able to fit 40 rounds in it, and it's basically as simple as, well, having a large Magnus sort of slide on the top, where the hopper is also set in. I'd say this one actually does get a pretty good score in it. Of course, 7.6 might just be a little low, because as I get into some of the other blasters from this line, don't expect me to go all in very quickly, because I sure know what to expect. And also be sure that I'm going to be having glasses on like this whenever I talk about these. So if you notice these on me when the video even starts, then expect one of these kinds of blasters to show up in my hands. And expect me to talk a lot about them, expect me to fire them many times over, and, well, expect me to not get hit in the eyes, especially with these things on, and especially if I'm trying to fire at things where the rounds won't even bounce off anything. So, all in all, that's just basically what I have left to say about this one. So, that's pretty much just the end of that. But if you want to see more go down on my channel, especially with a lot of other things that'll be coming along very soon, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.